Ismail account, but I've created out of Sister Fatima data camp account. So that's why you have data camp account. You have pluralized accounts. You can go there to learn. There's no, there's no limit to what you can gain here. And if you have any question what you're learning, you can always take it to class. We're going to look at it together, inshallah. So the first question is, what is data analytics? That is the first thing. What do you understand about data analytics? That is the first thing. Do anybody want to help us out with what do you understand about data analytics from your own personal knowledge, from a previous experience? What do you think data analytics is? For now, there is no wrong answer, right? You can just tell me what you think data analytics is.
Yeah, let me try.
Yes, please.
Data analytics is a process by which you are trying to solve a problem, maybe through a problem in a company, healthcare, or any other industry.
Interesting. So data analytics is the process whereby you try to solve a problem, whether in healthcare, manufacturing, or whatever industry you are trying to solve a problem. Okay, that is gotten a part of it, but not the full picture. Check Ismail, do you want to try?
So I would just say data analytics is the process of examining or trying to get full details about something so as to make decisions.
Interesting. Examining something so that you can make a decision. That is close. Now, what do you think you're examining in this case?
So it may be like information or anything, or a process, or I don't know, anything. You can just examine it. I can give I can set an example. Maybe let's say in terms of, let me just logistic as a case study now. You understand? Maybe you run a logistic and you use this like an online something to accept order. When you accept order, maybe you want to confirm if the order has been completed also. There must be a data analyst that will tell you, okay, this is the time this order was closed, so I have to make decision on maybe something that happened within this time can actually be linked to this person or to the other person. It's just an insight though.
Yes,
Hello?
thank you very much. That is, yeah, I can confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, that is, that, thank you. That is very, very close. Exactly. So data, you're trying to analyze, so information, when you say information, or we can say you're trying to analyze data to generate insights for decision making, right? That is basically what a data analyst is, right? And that is what data analytics is. You're trying to examine something, to generate something, whatever you generate, you want to use it to make a decision, or you want to use it to solve the problem, right? So basically, that is what a data analytics is. From the word data and analytics, when they ask you data analytics, of course, it actually comes from two words, right? The first word is data, right? The second is analytics. Analytics. There is people usually confuse difference between data analytics. They will ask you, is there any difference between data analytics and data analysis? We are still on definition anyway. Data analysis. Usually ask, is there any difference between data analysis and data analysis? We are going to see if there is any difference or not. But we want to understand that data analytics is the combination of two words, data and analytics, right? When we say data, what do we want to understand? What do we think data is? Because without you understanding what a data is, it will be very hard for you to explain or to understand truly what data analysis is. When we say data is a raw fact, right? We can say it's a raw fact or raw information that is generated on field, right? So that is what a data is. So think of data is almost everything you actually work with, right? And as we all know, almost every day you generate data. As you're pressing your phone, you're generating data, right? As you visit website, you're generating data for some people. As you're using Google Meet for our class, we're generating data for Google. That is exactly what data is. But if you go to normal layman language, data is anything you generate raw fact that is gotten on the field. Let me give us an example. You go into the market right now. We now want to say, okay, I want to get the age of market woman in a particular market. So what you're generating here is you're generating data. If they ask what is the data all about, this is data about age. Do you understand? So you can go there. Maybe you want to see, okay, in Shomolu market, you want to see the average age of market woman. Or you can even, if you want to go deeper, you can say, I want to see the average age of a market woman selling tomato. Do you understand? So what you are generating in this case, which is age, is a data, right? So that is what a data is. So data is any raw fact that is generated. That is what a data is. When we now talk about analytics, what is now analytics? Now, if you understand what a data is and we understand what analytics, what's now data analytics, right? What analytics is, analytics simply means examine of something. You want to examine something and you want to analyze something. That is what analytics is, examining of something, right? So in this case, when we say data analytics, in a simple word, examining of data, right? That is what it is. But if you go further, what data analytics is. Sorry, to confirm. Sister Fatima, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. One of the example of, can you give me another example of data that you think you can have as a data? This is a data. What's an example of a data that you think you can? Example of information you have as a data, or example of data that's the thing you can come across. Let's just think of something. Yeah, data all around us, right? But can you give me a day-to-day data, right? That is what I'm really interested in. Day-to-day data that we generated, that we generate. Let me give you an example.
Say, okay.
Okay, you want to go ahead?
No, cite the example first.
Okay, one of the example of a data that we generate is, we can say, a sales data, right? If you are into sales, you are a retailer, right, or a micro business owner, and you sell something, you can have a data, you can have a spreadsheet where you record the items you sell. Do you understand? So in that kind of data, you can say that data is sales data. In that kind of data, what do you think? What do you think you are expected to see? You're expected to see the product that is being sold. You're expected to see the price at which you actually sell that particular product, the cost price of it. Do you make a profit? Do you make a loss? Or the customer name, if it is necessary, the location at which that particular product is being sold. So those kind of data is actually called a sales data. Do you understand?
Okay.
So can you now give me an example of a data now?
Let me use school as example.
Okay, good.
So maybe the data there will be the name of the students, the number of the students in the schools,
Yeah.
the necessary materials available for the students.
Okay.
Maybe the total number of students that have gotten the materials and
Okay.
total number of students that are left to get it.
Okay.
The summation, something like that, Sha.
Can we say we can have the name of the student? We can have the department. If you are generating a student data, right? You can say name of
Yes.
Just like the customer data.
exactly. You can also have a customer data, which is usually generated from CRM, right? Or you have the customer
Yeah.
name, you have customer address, you have customer phone number, you have their emails, right? In some cases, you can have the age if it is something that is needed, right? So that is customer data. We have student data, as Sister Fatima has rightly said. Here we can have the student name, we can have the class, if it's a secondary school student, what class do they belong
And
to?
the departments.
Or we can have department if it is an institution data. We can have department, we can have we can even have the HOD of their department, right? We can have the courses they're actually offering. We can have, so these are kind of example of data that we can have. So when you now have a particular, when you now have that kind of data, you now want to examine it to generate some insight. For example, what is the average student in a particular class, right? Or out of all my customers, who usually for a particular month who has the highest purchase, total purchase, right? We can have that. We can have a product data as well. We can have we can have an HR data here where we have our employee name, we have their the leave, we have their, you know, we have HR, so we can have HR data, right? We can have appraiser, we can have all that, right? So we can have inventory data. So there are different kind of data that we can actually have. So when we talk about analytics, we're examining that data to generate something. What are we generating? We are generating an insight. Do you understand? So when you examine a data, you have a data, we know the different kind of data we can have. Now you now want to analyze, you want to perform analytics on it. You want to examine that data. When you're examining it, the first question is, what is even the purpose of you examining data? You want to examine the data, maybe you can find some patterns, or you can find somewhat insight inside that data. So first thing here is, we're talking about data analytics. Where is this thing called? Okay, so when we talk about data analytics, I hope you can see my screen. The first thing you should understand here is we are starting with data, right? And we have talked about different type of data. What do you do to this data? You are trying to examine it. So we say data analysis is a process. So data analysis is actually a particular process. So data analysis is a process of you examining what? Examining data, right? So data analysis is the process of you examining data. When you are examining data, what are you expected to see? What are you trying to find? Can anyone tell me what are you trying to find when you are examining data? I think I mentioned it just now. Hello. Sorry, I hope I'm
with
still.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. When you are examining your data, what are you trying to find?
The details about the data.
Not really data, because not really the details, right? Because data itself actually include the details already. So when you're examining your data, you're trying to find something, you're trying to find some patterns. This data that I have, is there any regular pattern, right? Or is there any insight I can actually generate from our data? Do you understand? Let's, for example, you notice there is always a constant sales in a particular month. Let's, for example, you're given 10 years sales data, right? You now want to see this 10 years sales data. I want to examine it. Is it that in this 10 years data, what I notice, the pattern I notice is at December, there is always high sales. Do you understand? So that is a pattern. Do you understand? That is an insight. Okay. One of the insights I generated is, okay, a particular customer usually purchases a particular product in a particular period of time. Do you understand? Or we usually have a peak period in December. We can now start asking ourselves, is it because December is always a festive period? That is why we usually have much request in this December. We now notice, let's say for example, we now notice that because of this December, because December is always our peak period, we notice that almost all December period, our employee that we actually employed usually try to overwork themselves. We can now start asking ourselves. So instead of, since we know that our December is actually peak period, and we don't have the capacity to employ more employees, so can we now say, okay, during December we can just get a contract staff that will just come to work November, December, so that they can actually ease that particular. This way, they can actually relieve our employee of those kind of too much tasks. Do you understand? To make things work, and also so that you can also attend to your customers faster. You can start asking your question. But when you're examining data, you are trying to find a pattern, or you're trying to generate an insight. Do you understand? So data analysis is a process of you examining the data so that you can find a pattern or generate an insight. But the question is, once you have found that pattern, for example, there is always high sales in December. That is a pattern. That is an insight. But what do we do to it? We want to use that pattern to make information, to make what is called an informed decision. Do you understand? We want to make a decision, but we don't just want to sit down and say we don't want to make a decision blindly, right? We want to ensure that our decision is data driven. So what we are trying to do is to examine the data that is available to generate a pattern or insight and use that pattern or insight to make an informed decision. Does that make sense to us?
Very well.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So let's see. I don't know why this thing keep. So we are trying to use this pattern to make informed decision. Or in some cases to solve a problem. All right, so that is what data analysis is all about. So if you want to connect the dot now, we say data analysis is a process of examining a data to generate an insight. Generate an insight so as to use that insight to make an informed decision. Does that make sense to us? So data analysis is a process of you examining a data set. We know what the data is. So as to generate a process of examining a data set to generate an insight or pattern, so we can use it to make an informed decision or to use it to solve a problem. So that's basically what data analysis is all about. And if you understand this definition, everything you do as a data analyst actually falls within this particular category. Do you understand? But like I said, this class will be very, our class is always interactive anyways. So I want to, who can define what a data analysis is? You can use your own language now, in as much it contains the keywords or it contains what we actually expected to understand about data analytics. You're very free. We want to define data analysis for us. I think one definition should be fine. Yeah, Sheikh Ismail.
So as we have said, we said data analytics is a process of examining a data
Okay.
to get a perfect insight so as to make an informed decision or solve a problem.
Thank you. Perfect. Sister Fatima, you want to try as well? Yes, please. Go ahead.
He said data analysis is a process of analyzing a data set to generate an insight in order to solve a problem.
That is also fine. So data analytics, sorry, not analysis, is the
Analytics.
process of examining a data to generate an insight or to find a pattern or to make an informed decision or to solve a problem. That is what a data analysis is all about. I believe we are clear on that. So let's move to the next thing. So that is one thing about data analysis. There is something interesting thing about this. And Sheikh Ismail can relate to this, right? When I joined my previous company, which